Hello there, and welcome to The Weary Researcher, where curiosity meets calm and science gently rocks you to sleep. I'm so glad you're here tonight, whether you're settling into bed, curling up on the couch, or simply trying to wind down after a long day of being a wonderfully complex human being. You've found exactly the right place. Before we begin our gentle drift into the fascinating world of dreams, I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the night. Are you nestled somewhere quiet and dark, perhaps with a cup of something warm? If you enjoy these sleepy explorations through the mysteries of science, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave this video a like and tap that subscribe button. It helps more curious minds like yours find their way to this cozy corner of YouTube, and it means I can keep making more of these soft, starlit journeys for you. Now, I should give you a gentle warning. While this video is designed to help you unwind and ease into rest, there's always the small risk that it might be just interesting enough to keep you listening. But if you do end up wide-eyed at 2 in the morning, thinking about REM cycles and the mysterious workings of your dreaming mind, well, at least you'll be a little wiser for it. Not such a bad trade, really. So close your eyes if you like, let your shoulders drop, and take a long, slow breath. Tonight, we're going to explore one of the most enigmatic aspects of human existence. Every night, as you drift off to sleep, your brain embarks on a remarkable journey, weaving stories that are sometimes profound, sometimes bizarre, and often completely forgotten by morning. We call these nocturnal narratives dreams, and they represent one of the last great mysteries of the human mind. What exactly is a dream? It sounds like such a simple question, doesn't it? But defining a dream is a bit like trying to capture morning mist in your hands. You can sense its presence, feel its ethereal touch, but it slips away the moment you try to grasp it firmly. At its core, a dream is a sequence of images, emotions, thoughts, and sensations that occur involuntarily in your mind during sleep. It's your brain's private cinema, screening films that range from the beautifully poetic to the utterly bewildering. These nighttime productions can feel startlingly real while they're happening. You might find yourself flying through clouds of cotton candy, having a philosophical debate with your childhood pet, or discovering that you've forgotten to wear shoes to an important meeting. During the dream, your sleeping mind accepts these impossibilities as perfectly reasonable. It's only upon waking that you realize the peculiar logic of the dream world, where gravity is optional and time flows like honey in winter. Dreams have captivated humanity for millennia. Ancient civilizations believed they were messages from the gods, windows into the future, or journeys of the soul into other realms. The Egyptians had professional dream interpreters, like nighttime oracles who could decode the symbolic language of sleep. If you dreamed of a cat, a flood, or a flying crocodile, someone probably had a papyrus scroll with an explanation ready. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Aristotle began to suggest something revolutionary for the time, that dreams might actually originate from within the dreamer, from the body and mind, rather than divine sources. This was a radical departure from the prevailing belief that dreams were external messages, but it planted the seeds for our modern understanding of these nocturnal mysteries. Fast forward through the centuries, and we encounter Sigmund Freud, the man who made dreams fashionable again in the early 20th century. Freud believed dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, revealing hidden desires, fears, and forbidden wishes. His interpretations were often dramatic and probably not entirely accurate, but they did inspire countless hours of armchair analysis and at least a few awkward conversations at dinner parties. Carl Jung, Freud's former protege, took a slightly different path. He believed dreams connected us to a shared human experience, what he called the collective unconscious. According to Jung, symbols in dreams had deep archetypal meanings that transcended individual life stories, linking us to universal human themes and experiences. But here's where modern science taps philosophy gently on the shoulder and says, "Mind if I take a look?" Contemporary neuroscience approaches dreams with a more grounded perspective. Instead of assuming your dreams are hiding deep secrets about your relationship with your mother, sorry, Freud, researchers now study the brain's activity during sleep to understand what's actually happening when we dream. What they've discovered is that dreams are closely linked to specific stages of sleep, most notably something called REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and during this stage, your brain becomes surprisingly active, sometimes almost as active as when you're fully awake. Your eyes dart around beneath your closed lids like they're watching an invisible tennis match. Your heart rate increases slightly, and here's the fascinating part. Your body becomes temporarily paralyzed. This paralysis is probably for the best, or else you'd be acting out your dreams on your pillow, which could make for some very interesting mornings. Dreams can occur during other stages of sleep too, what we call non-REM sleep. But these tend to be more abstract, less vivid, and generally less memorable. The wild, cinematic dreams, the ones with talking giraffes and elaborate plot twists worthy of a surreal novel, those are usually courtesy of REM sleep. But here's where it gets delightfully complicated. Scientists still don't entirely agree on why we dream. Is it purely biological, your brain's way of defragmenting itself, like an old computer hard drive? Is it emotional processing, helping you sort through the day's experiences and feelings, or is it still whispering symbolic messages in a language we haven't quite cracked yet? To add to the mystery, not everyone dreams the same way, and some people claim not to dream at all, though more often, it's simply a matter of not remembering them. Dreams are notoriously slippery when it comes to memory. You might wake up with a perfect recollection of a dream involving a space opera starring your pet hamster, only for it to evaporate like morning mist by the time you finish brushing your teeth. So if you've ever been frustrated trying to recall a particularly vivid or meaningful dream, don't worry. You're in excellent company. The brain doesn't store dream memories the way it stores other memories. In fact, the very regions of the brain responsible for encoding long-term memories, like the hippocampus, are not as active during REM sleep. This is probably why our dream memories tend to fade faster than a photograph left in bright sunlight. Still, some dreams do stick with us. The vivid ones, the emotionally powerful ones, the ones that wake us with our hearts racing or fill us with inexplicable joy, these tend to burn a bit brighter in our mental archive. There's something about the emotional intensity that helps cement them in our memory, creating those rare dream experiences we carry with us long after waking. Now here's a delightful twist that researchers have discovered. The content of dreams often reflects what's happening in your waking life. It's called the continuity hypothesis. The idea that your daily experiences, emotions, and even media consumption sneak their way into your dreams like uninvited but interesting dinner guests. So if you've binge-watched 5 episodes of a detective series, had a disagreement with your boss, and eaten spicy noodles before bed, don't be surprised if your dreams involve a chili-fueled crime scene investigation. Of course, dreams aren't just replays of daily events. They can also be wildly creative, combining familiar elements in impossible ways. Many artists, musicians, and inventors have claimed that dreams inspired their work. Paul McCartney famously heard the melody for Yesterday in a dream. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was born from a vivid nightmare, and Dmitri Mendeleev said the periodic table came to him in a vision during sleep. So while dreams may be strange and often illogical, they're also a space where the mind lets loose without the usual rules of physics or social convention. Your brain can experiment, rehearse, fantasize, and reflect, all without you lifting a finger. It's a bit like having a private theatre in your head, where the scriptwriter, director, set designer, and entire cast are all different aspects of you, and none of them seem to have read the same script, but that's part of the magic, isn't it? Dreams are messy, mysterious, and profoundly human. They're quiet proof that even while we rest, the mind is anything but still. They remind us that consciousness is far more complex and beautiful than we often realize during our waking hours. So the next time you drift off to sleep, remember that you're about to embark on your very own midnight adventure. It might be profound or peculiar, meaningful or magnificently absurd. You might find yourself solving impossible puzzles, revisiting cherished memories, or having tea with a talking penguin who dispenses surprisingly wise advice. Whatever unfolds in your personal dream theatre, know that it's part of the most intimate and mysterious aspect of being human. Sweet dreams, fellow traveller. Your nightly journey into the unknown awaits, and I'll be right here when you return, ready to explore more of the gentle wonders that make us who we are. Now that we've explored the science behind dreaming and why our minds create these nightly narratives, it's time to delve deeper into what actually happens inside your brain when you dream. The dreaming mind isn't just randomly firing off images and stories. It's a sophisticated biological process involving multiple brain regions working in careful coordination, each playing a specific role in creating the rich, complex experiences we call dreams. When you drift off to sleep tonight, your brain will embark on a remarkable journey through different stages of consciousness. But it's during REM sleep, that mysterious phase we discussed earlier, when the most vivid and memorable dreams occur. And what's happening in your brain during these moments is nothing short of extraordinary. Let's start with the star of the show, the visual cortex. Located at the back of your brain, this region processes everything you see during waking hours. But here's something fascinating. During REM sleep, your visual cortex becomes incredibly active, even though your eyes are closed and you're seeing nothing from the outside world. It's as if your brain is painting pictures on the inside of your eyelids, creating the vivid imagery that fills your dreams. This is why dreams are predominantly visual experiences. You might dream of flying over landscapes you've never seen, walking through childhood homes, or encountering people from your past. All of these visual experiences are being generated internally by your visual cortex, drawing from memories, fragments of experiences, and sometimes creating entirely new combinations that have never existed in reality. But dreams aren't just moving pictures. They're filled with emotion, often intense emotion. This is where the amygdala comes into play. The amygdala, those two small almond-shaped structures deep in your brain, are your emotional processing centers. During REM sleep, they become highly active, which explains why dreams can feel so emotionally charged. You might wake up from a dream feeling genuinely frightened, deeply sad, or overwhelmingly joyful, even though nothing real happened. The amygdala's heightened activity during dreams may serve an important function. Some researchers believe that dreams allow us to process emotions in a safe environment. You can experience fear, anger, or grief in a dream without real-world consequences. It's like your brain's way of running emotional simulations, helping you work through feelings and experiences that might be difficult to process while awake. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, your brain's memory center, is also busy during dreams. This seahorse-shaped structure is responsible for forming and consolidating memories, and it plays a crucial role in determining what content appears in your dreams. The hippocampus draws from your vast library of stored experiences, pulling out memories, faces, places, and situations to populate your dream world. But here's where it gets interesting. The hippocampus doesn't simply replay memories exactly as they happened. Instead, it mixes and matches different elements, creating new combinations and scenarios. This is why dreams often feel familiar, yet strange at the same time. You might dream about your childhood friend, but they're in your current workplace, having a conversation that never actually happened. Your hippocampus is essentially remixing your memories, creating new narratives from old experiences. Now, You might wonder why dreams often seem so illogical and bizarre. Why don't we notice when impossible things happen in our dreams? Why do we accept that we can suddenly fly, or that our childhood pet is giving us life advice? The answer lies in what's not active during REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, located just behind your forehead, is responsible for logical thinking, decision-making, and what scientists call executive function. It's the part of your brain that would normally say, "Wait, that doesn't make sense," or "That's physically impossible." But during REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex is largely offline, taking a rest while other brain regions become more active. This temporary shutdown of logical thinking is actually beneficial for dreaming. Without the prefrontal cortex constantly fact-checking and applying logic, your brain is free to make creative connections it might never make while awake. This is why some of history's greatest discoveries and creative breakthroughs have reportedly come from dreams. When logic steps aside, creativity can flourish. The motor cortex, which controls movement, also plays an interesting role in dreams. During REM sleep, this region can become active, as if you're actually performing the movements in your dream. You might be running, dancing, or fighting in your dream, and your motor cortex is firing as if these movements were real. But here's the remarkable part. Your body doesn't actually move. This is thanks to a protective mechanism called REM atonia, or sleep paralysis. During REM sleep, your brainstem releases chemicals that essentially paralyze your voluntary muscles, preventing you from acting out your dreams. It's a safety feature that keeps you from potentially harming yourself or others while you sleep. Imagine if you could physically act out every dream you had, running around your bedroom or throwing punches at imaginary threats. REM atonia keeps you safely in bed while your mind adventures elsewhere. The brain stem itself is incredibly active during REM sleep, coordinating this complex dance of neural activity. It's responsible for initiating REM sleep, maintaining the paralysis that keeps you still, and controlling the rapid eye movements that give this sleep stage its name. Those darting eye movements aren't random. They often correspond to the visual scanning you're doing in your dream, as if you're looking around the dream environment. Another fascinating aspect of the dreaming brain is how it handles time and space. The parietal lobe, which processes spatial information and helps you navigate the world while awake, behaves very differently during dreams. This might explain why dream locations often shift suddenly, why you can be in one place and then instantly somewhere else entirely, or why the layout of familiar places might be completely different in dreams. The temporal lobe, which processes sound and language, is also active during dreams, which is why dreams often include conversations, music, or other auditory experiences. However, like other sensory experiences in dreams, these sounds are generated internally rather than coming from the outside world. What's particularly intriguing is how these different brain regions communicate during dreams. The normal patterns of communication between brain areas are altered during REM sleep. Some connections become stronger, while others become weaker. This altered communication pattern may contribute to the unique characteristics of dreams. Their emotional intensity, visual vividness, and logical inconsistencies. Recent research has also revealed that the dreaming brain shows increased activity in areas associated with learning and memory consolidation. This supports the theory that one function of dreams is to help process and integrate the day's experiences, strengthening important memories and potentially discarding less relevant information. The neurotransmitter systems in your brain also undergo significant changes during REM sleep. Levels of norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin, chemicals that are important for attention, motivation, and mood regulation, while awake, drop to very low levels during REM sleep. This chemical shift may contribute to the altered state of consciousness that characterizes dreams. Acetylcholine, on the other hand, increases during REM sleep. This neurotransmitter is associated with learning and memory, and its increased presence during dreams may facilitate the memory processing that occurs during this sleep stage. The glymphatic system, your brain's waste clearance system, is also more active during sleep, including REM sleep. This system helps clear out metabolic waste products that accumulate in your brain during waking hours. So while you're dreaming, your brain is simultaneously taking out the trash, clearing away cellular debris and potentially harmful proteins. Temperature regulation in the brain also changes during REM sleep. The normal mechanisms that maintain a stable brain temperature are reduced, which might contribute to some of the unusual experiences reported in dreams, such as altered sensations or perceptions. What's remarkable is that all of this complex neural activity happens automatically, without any conscious effort on your part. You don't have to think about creating a dream. Your brain simply does it, night after night, weaving together memories, emotions, and sensations into narratives that can be profound, amusing, terrifying, or simply bizarre. The dreaming brain is also remarkably plastic and adaptable. People who are born blind, for example, experience dreams rich in sound, touch, and emotion, even though they may not have visual imagery. This shows how the brain can adapt its dreaming processes based on individual experiences and capabilities. Understanding what happens in your brain during dreams helps explain why dream experiences can feel so real and emotionally significant, even though they're entirely generated by neural activity. It also helps explain why dreams can sometimes provide insights or creative solutions to problems. When the logical, analytical parts of your brain step back, other regions are free to make new connections and explore possibilities that might not occur during waking thought. The next time you wake up from a vivid dream, whether it was delightful or disturbing, remember that you've just experienced one of the most complex and fascinating processes your brain is capable of. Multiple regions working in harmony, neurotransmitters shifting in precisely orchestrated patterns, and billions of neurons firing in sequences that create experiences as rich and detailed as any you might have while awake. Your dreaming brain is a testament to the incredible sophistication of the human mind, capable of creating entire worlds, complete with sights, sounds, emotions, and narratives, all while you rest peacefully in your bed. It's a nightly reminder that consciousness is far more complex and mysterious than we often realize, and that even in sleep, your brain remains a remarkable, creative, and endlessly fascinating organ. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary journey your brain is about to embark upon. In just a few hours, it will transport you to places you've never been, reunite you with people from your past, and perhaps even offer you insights you never expected. All of this will happen automatically, effortlessly, as your dreaming brain works its quiet magic through the night. Now let me dive into part 3 of our gentle journey through the science of dreams. We've explored what dreams are and how sleep unfolds in its elegant stages. But now it's time to understand why our minds insist on spinning these nightly stories in the first place. Picture this. You're drifting off to sleep, your conscious mind finally releasing its grip on the day's concerns. Your brain, however, is far from shutting down. Instead, it's preparing for one of its most mysterious and essential tasks. Over the next several hours, while your body rests and repairs itself, your mind will embark on a remarkable journey of memory sorting, emotional processing, and creative problem solving. This isn't random neural noise or meaningless static. This is your brain doing some of its most important work. The question of why we dream has captivated scientists, philosophers, and dreamers themselves for centuries. Ancient cultures saw dreams as messages from gods or glimpses into other realms. Modern science has revealed something perhaps even more extraordinary. Dreams appear to be essential maintenance work for the mind, a nightly tune-up that keeps our cognitive and emotional systems running smoothly. One of the most compelling theories about why we dream centers on memory consolidation. Think of your brain as having two main filing systems. During the day, experiences get stored in temporary folders scattered throughout your mind. But during sleep, particularly during REM phases, your brain becomes a meticulous librarian, deciding what to keep, what to discard, and where to file everything for long-term storage. This process isn't just about moving memories from one mental folder to another, it's far more sophisticated than that. During sleep, your brain actually strengthens the neural pathways associated with important memories while allowing less significant ones to fade. It's like having an intelligent editor who not only decides what stays in the final draft, but also enhances the most important passages while quietly deleting the unnecessary details. Recent groundbreaking research has revealed that some neurons don't just replay recent experiences during sleep. They actually anticipate future events. University of Michigan. Researchers discovered that during sleep, specialized neurons produce representations of the world that extend beyond simple memory consolidation. These neurons track what scientists call sharp wave ripples, patterns of brain activity that both consolidate memories and tag which parts of new experiences should be stored for future use. This finding suggests something remarkable. Your dreams might not just be processing your past, they might be preparing you for your future. When you dream about navigating a new building or practicing a conversation, your brain might be creating mental rehearsals for scenarios you haven't even encountered yet. It's as if your mind is running simulations, preparing you for the unexpected challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. But memory isn't the only reason we dream. Emotions, it turns out, also need their nightly maintenance. During REM sleep, your amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, becomes particularly active, while stress-related chemicals like norepinephrine are dramatically reduced. This unique combination allows your brain to revisit emotionally charged experiences without the full intensity of the original feelings. Think of it as emotional rehearsal therapy. Your brain can replay difficult situations, explore different responses, and gradually reduce the emotional charge associated with challenging memories. This is why people often report feeling better about problems after sleeping on it. It's not just a figure of speech. Your brain has literally been working through the emotional complexity while you slept. The activation synthesis theory, proposed by researchers J. Allen Hobson and Robert McCarley, offers yet another perspective on why we dream. According to this theory, dreams result from the brain's attempt to make sense of random neural activity that occurs during REM sleep. The brainstem fires chaotic electrical signals throughout the brain, and the cortex, ever the storyteller, tries to weave these random inputs into coherent narratives. This might explain why dreams often feel so bizarre yet emotionally meaningful. Your brain is essentially creating stories from neural static, and like any good storyteller, it draws from your personal experiences, fears, and desires to craft these midnight tales. The result is a dream that feels deeply personal, even when the plot makes no logical sense. But perhaps one of the most fascinating reasons we might dream relates to creativity and problem solving. History is filled with accounts of scientific discoveries, artistic breakthroughs, and innovative solutions that emerged from dreams. The periodic table came to Dmitri Mendeleev in a dream. Paul McCartney heard the melody for Yesterday in his sleep. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was born from a vivid nightmare. During REM sleep, the brain regions responsible for logical thinking and reality testing are less active, while areas associated with creativity and pattern recognition remain highly engaged. This creates a perfect environment for making unusual connections between disparate ideas. Without the constraints of waking logic, your mind is free to explore impossible combinations and unexpected solutions. Research has shown that people who experience REM sleep after learning a new task often perform better than those who don't sleep at all. Even more intriguingly, those who dream about the task show the greatest improvement. It's as if the act of dreaming about something helps consolidate not just the memory, but also the skills associated with it. The threat simulation theory offers an evolutionary perspective on dreaming. Finnish psychologist Antti Revonsuo proposed that dreams serve as a kind of virtual reality training ground, where we can practice responding to dangerous situations without real-world consequences. This theory suggests that the prevalence of negative emotions and threatening scenarios in dreams isn't accidental, it's adaptive. Consider how often dreams involve being chased, falling, losing loved ones, or facing other threatening situations. While these dreams might be unpleasant, they could be serving a crucial function, keeping our threat detection and response systems sharp. Children living in dangerous environments have been shown to have more frequent and intense threatening dreams than those in safer settings, supporting the idea that dreams help us prepare for the challenges our environment might present. The relationship between dreaming and learning extends beyond simple memory consolidation. Different types of learning seem to benefit from different stages of sleep. Motor skills, like learning to play a musical instrument or perfecting a tennis serve, are enhanced during stage 2 non-REM sleep. Procedural memories, the kind that help you remember how to ride a bike or type on a keyboard, also seem to benefit from this lighter stage of sleep. Meanwhile, declarative memories, facts, names, and explicit information, are strengthened during slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage of non-REM. And REM sleep appears to be crucial for integrating emotional memories and making creative connections between different pieces of information. This suggests that a full night's sleep, cycling through all stages multiple times, provides different types of cognitive maintenance. It's not just about getting enough sleep, it's about getting enough of each type of sleep to support the full spectrum of learning and memory processes. But dreams don't just process individual memories and emotions, they also appear to play a role in maintaining our sense of self and continuity. The self-related processing that occurs during dreams helps integrate new experiences with our existing sense of identity. When you dream about familiar people in unfamiliar situations, or find yourself behaving differently than you would while awake, your brain might be exploring different aspects of your personality and testing how they fit with your overall sense of who you are. This integration function might explain why major life changes often trigger particularly vivid or unusual dreams. Your brain is working overtime to incorporate new information about yourself and your world into your existing mental framework. It's updating your internal model of reality to account for new circumstances, relationships, or understanding. The role of dreams in emotional regulation cannot be overstated. The sleep to forget and sleep to remember model suggests that REM sleep helps us retain the important emotional content of experiences while reducing their emotional intensity. This process allows us to learn from emotionally significant events without being overwhelmed by them. Dreams might also serve as a form of mood regulation. The emotional content of dreams often reflects our current psychological state, but the act of dreaming itself might help restore emotional balance. People who are prevented from reaching REM sleep often show increased irritability and emotional instability, suggesting that dreams play a crucial role in maintaining psychological equilibrium. Interestingly, the content of dreams varies not just from person to person, but also across cultures and historical periods. While the basic neurophysiology of dreaming appears to be universal, the symbols, narratives, and interpretations of dreams are deeply influenced by cultural context. This suggests that while the biological function of dreaming is consistent across humanity, the specific content serves to integrate our experiences within our particular social and cultural framework. The study of dreams has also revealed fascinating insights about consciousness itself. Dreams represent a unique state of consciousness where we can experience vivid perceptions, complex emotions, and narrative coherence despite being completely disconnected from external sensory input. This has profound implications for our understanding of how consciousness emerges from brain activity. Some researchers suggest that dreams might represent the default mode of consciousness, the state our minds naturally return to when not actively engaged with the external world. This perspective views waking consciousness as the exception rather than the rule, a specialized state that evolved to help us navigate the physical world, but which represents just one mode of mental operation. The relationship between dreams and mental health provides another window into why we dream. People with depression often show altered dream patterns, including increased REM sleep early in the night and more negative dream content. Those with anxiety disorders frequently experience dreams filled with threat and uncertainty. These patterns suggest that dreams both reflect and potentially influence our psychological well-being. Understanding why we dream has practical implications beyond satisfying scientific curiosity. As we develop better techniques for studying and potentially influencing dreams, we might find new approaches to treating mental health conditions, enhancing learning, and promoting emotional resilience. Some researchers are already exploring how targeted dream incubation, gently influencing dream content through sensory cues during sleep, might be used therapeutically. The emerging field of dream engineering represents a fascinating frontier where science fiction begins to meet scientific reality. While we're still far from being able to program specific dreams, we're learning how to influence dream content in subtle ways. This could potentially allow us to enhance the natural benefits of dreaming, whether that's improving memory consolidation, reducing nightmares, or promoting creative problem solving. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of why we dream, one thing becomes increasingly clear. These nightly journeys are far from meaningless wanderings of an idle mind. They represent some of the most sophisticated and essential work our brains perform. Every strange character, impossible scenario, and emotional twist in our dreams serves a purpose in the grand project of maintaining and optimizing our mental lives. So the next time you wake from a particularly vivid or puzzling dream, remember that you've just completed a session of the most advanced cognitive maintenance system on Earth. Your brain has been busy consolidating memories, processing emotions, solving problems, and preparing you for whatever challenges and opportunities await. In the theatre of dreams, you're not just the audience, you're both the star and the director of a nightly performance designed to keep your mind sharp, your emotions balanced, and your creativity flowing. Sweet dreams, knowing now that each one serves a purpose in the beautiful, complex symphony of your sleeping mind. Now that we've explored the intricate machinery of memory formation and storage, we arrive at perhaps the most fascinating aspect of our dreaming minds, how they weave together the threads of our daily experiences into the rich tapestry of nocturnal narratives. Dreams don't simply replay our memories like a video recording. They transform, combine, and reimagine them in ways that can be both startling and profound. Recent neuroscientific research has revealed that during REM sleep, the brain engages in a sophisticated process of memory consolidation that goes far beyond simple storage. The hippocampus, that curved structure deep within the temporal lobe, acts as a kind of overnight librarian, carefully selecting which experiences deserve permanent filing in the cortex and which can be allowed to fade. But this isn't a passive filing system. As memories are transferred from temporary to long-term storage, they undergo a remarkable transformation. The sleeping brain doesn't just preserve our experiences, it actively edits them. Irrelevant details are stripped away, while emotionally significant elements are enhanced and connected to existing knowledge networks. This process, known as systems consolidation, helps explain why dreams often feel so emotionally charged. The amygdala, our brain's alarm system for detecting emotional significance, remains highly active during REM sleep, ensuring that the feelings associated with our experiences are not only preserved but often amplified in our dreams. But perhaps most intriguingly, the dreaming brain excels at something called associative learning. While we sleep, neural networks that were activated during the day are reactivated, but not in isolation. Instead, they're connected to other networks in novel and sometimes surprising ways. This is why you might dream of your high school math teacher explaining quantum physics to your pet goldfish in your childhood bedroom. Each element draws from a real memory, but the sleeping brain has woven them together in a way that would never occur during waking consciousness. This creative recombination serves a vital purpose. By forming new associations between disparate memories, dreams may help us develop insights, solve problems, and adapt to new situations. The famous story of chemist Auguste Kekulé discovering the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake biting its own tail illustrates how the sleeping mind can forge connections that elude our waking consciousness. While such dramatic breakthroughs are rare, the underlying process of creative association happens in every dream, potentially preparing us for the challenges and opportunities that await us when we wake. The emotional processing function of dreams becomes even more sophisticated when we consider how they handle difficult or traumatic experiences. Rather than simply replaying distressing events, the dreaming brain often creates symbolic representations that allow us to process challenging emotions in a safer psychological space. A dream about being chased might represent feelings of being overwhelmed at work, while a dream of flying could symbolize a desire for freedom or escape from life's constraints. This symbolic processing appears to serve a crucial therapeutic function. Studies have shown that people who are deprived of REM sleep struggle more with emotional regulation and show increased reactivity to stressful situations. The dreaming brain seems to act as an overnight therapist, helping us work through emotional conflicts and integrate difficult experiences into our broader understanding of ourselves and the world. The social dimension of memory processing in dreams is equally fascinating. Dreams frequently feature other people from our lives, both past and present, often in unexpected combinations and contexts. This social dreaming may help us practice interpersonal skills, work through relationship conflicts, and maintain our sense of connection to our social networks. The dreaming brain might rehearse conversations we need to have, explore alternative outcomes to social interactions, or simply remind us of the importance of various relationships in our lives. Interestingly, the way memories are processed in dreams appears to change across the lifespan. Children's dreams, which are often more fantastical and populated with imaginary creatures, may reflect the developing brain's need to rapidly form new neural connections and integrate vast amounts of novel information. As we age and our life experiences accumulate, dreams tend to become more grounded in realistic scenarios, perhaps reflecting the brain's shift toward maintaining and refining existing knowledge networks, rather than building entirely new ones. The timing of different types of memory processing throughout the night is also remarkably sophisticated. Early in the sleep cycle, during deep slow-wave sleep, the brain focuses primarily on consolidating declarative memories, facts, events, and explicit knowledge. Later, during the REM-rich periods toward morning, the emphasis shifts to procedural memories and emotional processing. This sequential approach ensures that different types of learning and memory are optimally processed at the times when the brain is best equipped to handle them. Modern neuroscience has also revealed that the dreaming brain doesn't work in isolation. The glymphatic system, a network of vessels that clears metabolic waste from the brain, becomes particularly active during sleep. This cellular housekeeping may be essential for the proper functioning of memory consolidation processes, suggesting that dreams and brain maintenance work hand in hand to keep our minds functioning optimally. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of how dreams process and transform our memories, we're gaining a deeper appreciation for the sophistication of our sleeping minds. Far from being a passive state of unconsciousness, sleep emerges as a time of active mental work during which our brains sort, file, connect, and creatively reimagine the experiences of our waking lives. Each dream is both a reflection of our past and a preparation for our future, a nightly reminder that even in rest our minds continue their endless work of making sense of the world and our place within it. This intricate dance between memory and dreaming helps explain why a good night's sleep often brings clarity to problems that seemed insurmountable the day before, and why the phrase "sleep on it" contains more wisdom than we might have imagined. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, remember that your brain is preparing for another remarkable journey through the landscapes of memory and imagination, weaving the stories that will help you wake refreshed, renewed, and ready to face whatever tomorrow may bring. We've journeyed through the neural pathways of sleep, witnessed the birth of galaxies, and watched storms dance across our atmosphere. Now it's time to explore one of the most mysterious and emotionally significant frontiers of neuroscience. What happens to our dreams and their emotional content when trauma enters the picture, and how these nocturnal experiences might actually hold keys to healing. The relationship between trauma and dreaming is far more complex than simply having bad dreams. When we experience trauma, our brain's normal dream architecture can become disrupted, leading to profound changes in how we process emotions, consolidate memories, and find restorative sleep. Tonight, we'll drift through this delicate landscape, where neuroscience meets healing, where nightmares transform into understanding, and where the sleeping mind reveals its remarkable capacity for both vulnerability and resilience. Let's begin by understanding what trauma actually does to the dreaming brain. When someone experiences a traumatic event, whether it's a single incident or prolonged exposure to distressing circumstances, the brain's threat detection system becomes hypervigilant. The amygdala, that almond-shaped emotional processing center we've discussed before, becomes overactive, constantly scanning for danger, even during sleep. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought and emotional regulation, may become less effective at moderating these fear responses. During normal REM sleep, the brain typically reduces levels of norepinephrine, a stress chemical that helps us stay alert during waking hours. This reduction allows us to process emotional memories in a relatively calm neurochemical environment, gradually reducing their emotional intensity while preserving the factual content. It's like having a gentle editor review our experiences, keeping the lessons while softening the emotional sting. However, in trauma-related sleep disturbances, this natural desensitization process can break down. Instead of the usual decrease in stress chemicals during REM sleep, people with trauma may experience continued elevation of norepinephrine and other stress hormones. This means that, instead of processing and integrating traumatic memories, the brain may repeatedly re-experience them with full emotional intensity intact. The dream becomes less of a healing space and more of a prison where the trauma plays on repeat. This is why trauma-related nightmares often feel so vivid and terrifying. Unlike typical dreams, which tend to be fragmented and symbolic, trauma nightmares frequently replay the actual event or variations of it with startling clarity. The dreamer may find themselves back in the threatening situation, experiencing the same helplessness, fear, and physiological arousal as during the original trauma. These dreams can be so intense that people wake up with racing hearts, sweating, and a sense of immediate danger, as if the threat was still present. But trauma doesn't only manifest in direct replays of events. Often the emotional themes of trauma weave themselves into seemingly unrelated dream scenarios. Someone who experienced a car accident might dream of being trapped in various situations, not necessarily involving vehicles. A person who survived an assault might have recurring dreams about being chased or unable to escape, with the specific details changing but the core emotional experience remaining constant. The timing and frequency of these dreams also reveals something important about how trauma affects sleep architecture. Many people with post-traumatic stress disorder experience what researchers call REM sleep fragmentation. Their sleep cycles become disrupted, with more frequent awakenings and less time spent in the deeper, more restorative stages of sleep. This fragmentation can actually increase the likelihood of remembering dreams, particularly distressing ones, because awakening during or shortly after REM sleep makes dream recall more likely. Interestingly, the content of trauma dreams often provides valuable insights into how the mind is attempting to process the experience. Sometimes, these dreams contain elements of mastery or resolution that weren't present in the actual traumatic event. A person might dream of fighting back, escaping, or being rescued in ways that didn't happen in reality. These variations suggest that even in the midst of nightmare scenarios, the dreaming mind is working to imagine different outcomes, perhaps seeking psychological closure or a sense of agency that was lost during the trauma. The relationship between trauma and dreams also extends to the broader sleep environment. Many trauma survivors develop what's called hypervigilance during sleep, where they remain partially alert even while unconscious. This evolutionary adaptation, designed to detect threats quickly, can prevent the deep relaxation necessary for restorative sleep. The result is that even when nightmares aren't occurring, sleep may feel unsatisfying and unrefreshing. Cultural factors also influence how trauma appears in dreams. Different societies have varying beliefs about the meaning and significance of dreams, which can affect how individuals interpret and cope with trauma-related nightmares. In some cultures, disturbing dreams are seen as spiritual experiences that require specific rituals or interventions. In others, they're viewed primarily through a medical or psychological lens. These cultural frameworks can significantly impact whether someone seeks help and what kind of treatment they find acceptable. One particularly fascinating aspect of trauma dreaming is the phenomenon of progressive dreaming, where the content of nightmares gradually changes over time as healing occurs. Early in the trauma recovery process, dreams may be exact replicas of the traumatic event. As healing progresses, the dreams might begin to include elements of empowerment, support from others, or successful escape. Eventually, the traumatic material may transform into more typical dream content, suggesting that the brain has successfully integrated the experience. The sleep laboratory studies of trauma survivors have revealed some remarkable findings about the physiology of nightmare experiences. During trauma-related nightmares, researchers observe not just the expected increase in heart rate and blood pressure, but also changes in brainwave patterns that differ from both normal REM sleep and typical nightmares. The brain shows increased activity in areas associated with fear and threat detection, while showing decreased activity in regions responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation. Perhaps most significantly, The research has shown that trauma-related sleep disturbances don't exist in isolation. They're often interconnected with daytime symptoms like hypervigilance, emotional numbing, and intrusive memories. The quality of sleep and dreams can actually predict how well someone will function during their waking hours, making sleep-focused interventions a crucial component of trauma treatment. This understanding has led to the development of several innovative approaches to treating trauma-related sleep disturbances. One of the most promising is called image rehearsal therapy, which we'll explore in detail. But first, let's take a moment to appreciate the resilience of the human mind, even in sleep. Despite the distress that trauma can cause to our dream lives, the very fact that the brain continues to dream, continues to process, and continues to seek resolution speaks to a fundamental drive toward healing that operates even in our unconscious moments. The journey from trauma nightmare to healing dream is not always linear or predictable, but it represents one of the most hopeful aspects of neuroscience research. The same neural plasticity that allows trauma to reshape our dreams also provides the foundation for recovery, transformation, and ultimately, the restoration of sleep as a sanctuary for both rest and emotional renewal. As we continue to explore this landscape of trauma and dreams, we'll discover how modern therapeutic approaches are learning to work with, rather than against, the natural wisdom of the dreaming mind. We'll see how nightmares, rather than being simply symptoms to suppress, can become pathways to understanding and healing. And we'll learn how the latest research is revealing new possibilities for helping trauma survivors reclaim not just their sleep, but their sense of safety, agency, and hope for the future. The story of trauma and dreams is ultimately a story about the brain's remarkable capacity for adaptation and healing. Even in our darkest nights, even when sleep brings no peace, the mind continues its ancient work of processing, integrating, and ultimately seeking wholeness. It's a testament to human resilience that operates not just in our waking courage, but in the quiet determination of neurons firing in the dark, weaving new patterns of hope, one dream at a time. But trauma's impact on dreams isn't just about the dramatic nightmares that jolt us awake in cold sweats. Sometimes the effects are more subtle, more pervasive, and in many ways, more insidious. Trauma can fundamentally alter the emotional landscape of all our dreams, not just the obviously distressing ones. Consider what researchers call dream effect, the emotional tone that colors our dream experiences. In healthy individuals, dreams typically contain a mixture of emotions, with positive emotions often balancing negative ones over time. Studies of dream journals show that while we may have anxious or sad dreams, we also experience dreams filled with joy, wonder, love, and humor. This emotional variety in dreams appears to play a role in maintaining psychological balance. However, trauma can shift this emotional equilibrium dramatically. Trauma survivors often report that even their non-nightmare dreams feel different, more anxious, more threatening, or strangely emotionally flat. A dream about visiting a friend might be tinged with inexplicable dread. A dream about a beautiful landscape might feel somehow hollow or unreal. It's as if trauma creates an emotional filter that affects all dream content, not just the dreams directly related to the traumatic event. This phenomenon occurs because trauma doesn't just create new neural pathways for fear and threat detection. It can also dampen the brain's capacity for positive emotions and experiences. The same neurochemical changes that make us hypervigilant during the day can persist into sleep, coloring our dream world with heightened anxiety and reduced capacity for joy or wonder. There's also the matter of dream fragmentation. While some trauma survivors experience vivid, coherent nightmares, others report that their dreams become scattered and difficult to remember. This fragmentation may represent the brain's protective mechanism. If memories and experiences can't be integrated coherently, perhaps they can't cause as much distress. However, this fragmentation can also prevent the natural healing processes that normally occur during dream sleep. The timing of when trauma occurs in a person's life also significantly affects how it manifests in dreams. Childhood trauma, for instance, can disrupt the normal development of dream content and emotional regulation during sleep. Children who experience trauma may have difficulty developing the typical progression from simple, concrete dreams to more complex, symbolic ones. Their dream development may become stuck at earlier stages, or they may develop unusual dream patterns that persist into adulthood. Adult trauma, while occurring in a more developed brain, can still cause significant disruptions to established dream patterns. Someone who previously had rich, varied dream lives might find their dreams becoming repetitive and anxiety-laden. Others might experience what researchers call dream avoidance. Their brain seems to shut down dream production altogether, leading to sleep that feels empty and unrestorative. The concept of dream emotions becomes particularly important when we consider how trauma affects not just what we dream about, but how we feel within our dreams. In normal dreams, we often experience a sense of agency. We make decisions, solve problems, and navigate challenges, even if the dream logic is bizarre. Trauma can rob us of this sense of agency in dreams, leaving us feeling helpless, trapped, or unable to influence the dream's direction. This loss of dream agency often mirrors the feelings of helplessness experienced during the traumatic event itself. It's as if the trauma creates a template of powerlessness that gets applied not just to waking life, but to the dream world as well. The dreamer becomes a passive observer of their own unconscious experience, unable to change course or influence outcomes, even in the supposedly safe space of sleep. Interestingly, the social aspects of dreams can also be affected by trauma. Our dreams often feature other people, family, friends, strangers, even fictional characters. These dream relationships can provide comfort, challenge, or simply social connection during sleep. However, trauma survivors often report that the people in their dreams feel threatening, distant, or unreliable. Even familiar, trusted figures might appear dangerous or unhelpful in dreams, reflecting the way trauma can damage our fundamental sense of safety and trust in relationships. The sensory qualities of trauma-affected dreams also deserve attention. Many trauma survivors report that their dreams become more intensely sensory. Sounds are louder, images are more vivid, physical sensations are more intense. This sensory intensification might represent the hypervigilant nervous system, extending its heightened alertness into sleep. Every detail becomes potentially significant, every sensation a possible warning sign. On the other hand, some trauma survivors experience the opposite, dreams that feel muted, grey, or lacking in sensory detail. This might represent a different protective mechanism, where the brain reduces sensory input to prevent overwhelming experiences during sleep. These dreams often feel unsatisfying and strange, as if the dreamer is experiencing the world through thick glass or fog. The repetitive nature of trauma dreams also sets them apart from typical dream experiences. While all of us occasionally have recurring dreams, trauma-related recurring dreams tend to be more frequent, more distressing, and more resistant to natural change over time. The brain seems to get stuck in a loop, repeatedly trying to process the traumatic experience, but unable to reach resolution. These recurring dreams often follow what researchers call a trauma template, a basic pattern of threat, helplessness, and unresolved danger that gets filled in with different details but maintains the same emotional core. The setting might change from a car accident to a house fire to being chased through a forest, but the underlying experience of being in danger and unable to escape remains constant. Sleep laboratory studies have shown that during these recurring trauma dreams, the brain shows patterns of activity that are quite different from normal REM sleep. There's increased activity in areas associated with fear and stress, decreased activity in areas responsible for rational thought and emotional regulation, and unusual patterns of neurotransmitter release that more closely resemble waking anxiety states than typical dream sleep. This research has important implications for understanding why trauma-related sleep disturbances can be so persistent and why they often don't resolve on their own over time. Unlike normal dreams, which naturally change and evolve as we process experiences and emotions, trauma dreams can become neurologically stuck in patterns that reinforce rather than resolve distress. However, this same research has also revealed the remarkable plasticity of the dreaming brain. Even deeply entrenched trauma patterns can be modified through targeted interventions that work with the brain's natural healing mechanisms. Understanding how trauma affects dreams has opened up new possibilities for treatment approaches that specifically target the sleep and dream disturbances that can perpetuate trauma symptoms. The goal isn't necessarily to eliminate all distressing dream content. After all, some degree of emotional processing through dreams is normal and healthy. Instead, the aim is to restore the brain's natural capacity to use sleep and dreams for healing, integration, and emotional regulation. This might mean helping recurring nightmares evolve and change over time, restoring the dreamer's sense of agency within dreams, or simply improving sleep quality so that the natural healing processes can occur. As we begin to understand trauma's complex relationship with dreams, we also begin to see new possibilities for healing. The same neural pathways that allow trauma to disrupt our dream lives also provide the foundation for recovery. The brain that learned to be hypervigilant in sleep can also learn to be peaceful. The mind that became trapped in recurring nightmares can also discover new endings, new possibilities, and ultimately, new dreams. The journey from trauma-disrupted sleep to healing dreams is not always straightforward, but it represents one of the most hopeful frontiers in both trauma treatment and sleep medicine. By understanding how trauma affects our unconscious minds, we can begin to work with, rather than against, the natural wisdom of the dreaming brain, helping it remember its capacity for processing, healing, and renewal. One of the most promising developments in trauma treatment has been the recognition that nightmares, rather than being simply symptoms to suppress, can actually be gateways to healing. This insight has led to the development of several innovative therapeutic approaches that work directly with dream content to promote recovery and emotional integration. Image rehearsal. Therapy, or IRT, represents perhaps the most well-researched and effective of these approaches. Developed by Dr. Barry Krakow and his colleagues, IRT is based on a deceptively simple premise. If we can change how we imagine a nightmare while awake, we can influence how our brain processes it during sleep. The therapy begins with the understanding that nightmares are learned behaviors, patterns of brain activity that have become habitual through repetition. Just as we can learn to play a song on the piano through practice, our brains can learn to replay traumatic scenarios through repeated nightmare experiences. But if learning created the problem, learning can also provide the solution. In IRT, patients are asked to write down their recurring nightmare in detail, capturing not just the events, but also the emotions, sensations, and sense of helplessness that characterize the experience. This step alone can be therapeutic, as it helps externalize the nightmare content and creates some psychological distance from it. The nightmare becomes something to examine and work with, rather than something that simply happens to the person. Next comes the creative part. The patient is invited to change the nightmare in any way they choose. They might imagine fighting back against an attacker, calling for help and having it arrive, discovering they can fly away from danger, or simply changing the setting to somewhere safe and peaceful. The key is that the dreamer takes an active role in reshaping their dream experience, reclaiming the sense of agency that trauma often destroys. Some patients make dramatic changes, turning a terrifying chase scene into a peaceful walk through a garden. Others make smaller modifications. Perhaps in the nightmare, they're able to call for help, or a door that was previously locked becomes unlocked. There's no right or wrong way to modify the dream. The goal is simply to create a version that feels more empowering and less distressing to the individual. The modified dream, now called the new dream, is then rehearsed during waking hours. Patients spend 10 to 20 minutes each day visualizing the new dream in detail, engaging all their senses and emotions in the process. This rehearsal isn't just casual daydreaming, it's focused, intentional practice that helps establish new neural pathways in the brain. What happens next often seems almost magical, though it's actually based on solid neuroscience. Over the course of several weeks, many patients begin to experience changes in their actual nightmares. Sometimes the new dream content appears directly in sleep. Other times, the nightmare simply becomes less frequent or less distressing. In some cases, the nightmare transforms gradually, incorporating elements of empowerment and resolution that weren't present before. The success of IRT appears to be based on several neurological mechanisms. First, the process of consciously reimagining the nightmare activates the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive center that's often underactive during trauma responses. This increased prefrontal activity can help regulate the amygdala's fear responses, both during the day and potentially during sleep. Second, the rehearsal process may help create competing neural pathways that can override the established trauma patterns. When the brain encounters nightmare-related content during sleep, it now has alternative pathways to follow, pathways that lead to empowerment and resolution rather than helplessness and fear. Third, IRT appears to work with the brain's natural tendency toward neuroplasticity during sleep. The same mechanisms that normally help us process and integrate daily experiences can be guided toward processing the modified dream content, gradually replacing old patterns with new ones. Research studies have shown that IRT can be remarkably effective. In clinical trials, 60 to 70% of participants experienced significant reductions in nightmare frequency and intensity. Many also report improvements in overall sleep quality, daytime functioning, and general trauma symptoms. The therapy typically requires 6 to 12 sessions with a trained therapist, making it a relatively brief and cost-effective intervention. But IRT is just one of several approaches that work with dream content for healing. Another technique, called dream rescripting and rehearsal, extends the concept by helping patients work with multiple traumatic dreams and develop a broader sense of empowerment in their dream lives. Patients learn to view themselves as the directors of their own dream movies, capable of changing scripts, altering endings, and even casting different actors in their nocturnal dramas. Lucid dreaming therapy represents another fascinating frontier in trauma treatment. In lucid dreaming, the dreamer becomes aware that they're dreaming while still remaining asleep. This awareness can provide an opportunity to consciously influence the dream's direction, confronting nightmare content with the knowledge that it's not real and cannot cause actual harm. Teaching lucid dreaming skills to trauma survivors requires patience and practice, but for those who master it, the results can be profound. Imagine being chased by a threatening figure in a nightmare, then suddenly realizing this is just a dream, and choosing to turn around and face the pursuer, or transform the scary figure into something benign, or simply fly away. The sense of empowerment that comes from taking control within a previously terrifying dream can have lasting effects on both sleep and waking life. The techniques for developing lucid dreaming abilities include reality checking during the day, regularly asking, "Am I dreaming?" and looking for dreamlike inconsistencies, maintaining a dream journal to improve dream recall and awareness, and practicing visualization exercises that enhance self-awareness during sleep. Some therapists also use external cues such as light devices that can detect REM sleep and provide gentle stimuli to promote lucidity without waking the dreamer. Exposure, relaxation, and rescripting therapy, ERRT, combines elements of traditional exposure therapy with dream work. In this approach, patients are gradually exposed to their nightmare content while in a relaxed state, then work to develop new, more adaptive endings to their traumatic dreams. The combination of relaxation training with dream modification appears to be particularly effective for people whose nightmares are associated with high levels of anxiety and arousal. Eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing (EMDR) therapy, while not specifically designed for dream work, has also shown promise in reducing trauma-related nightmares. EMDR uses bilateral stimulation, typically guided eye movements, to help the brain process traumatic memories more adaptively. Many patients report that their nightmares change or diminish following EMDR treatment, even when dream content wasn't directly addressed in therapy. The effectiveness of these dream-focused therapies appears to be related to several factors. First, they all work with rather than against the brain's natural healing mechanisms. Instead of simply trying to suppress nightmares with medication, these approaches help the brain complete the processing and integration that trauma initially prevented. Second, they restore a sense of agency and empowerment to the trauma survivor. Rather than being a helpless victim of recurring nightmares, the person becomes an active participant in their own healing process. This shift from helplessness to empowerment often extends beyond sleep into waking life as well. Third, these therapies recognize that healing often requires revisiting traumatic material, but in a safe and controlled way. By working with nightmare content in the safety of a therapeutic relationship and with conscious awareness, patients can gradually desensitize themselves to traumatic triggers while developing new, more adaptive responses. The research on dream-focused trauma therapies has also revealed some interesting insights about who responds best to these approaches. People who have good dream recall and vivid dream imagery tend to do well with techniques like IRT. Those who are already somewhat psychologically minded and comfortable with introspection often respond well to dream rescripting approaches. Individuals who have some degree of cognitive flexibility and creativity may be particularly suited for lucid dreaming training. However, it's important to note that dream-focused therapies aren't appropriate for everyone or every stage of trauma recovery. People who are in acute crisis or who have severe dissociative symptoms may need to stabilize their waking life before working directly with dream content. Those with certain psychiatric conditions or who are taking medications that suppress REM sleep may not be good candidates for these approaches. The integration of dream work into trauma treatment represents a significant shift in how we think about healing from psychological injury. Rather than viewing sleep disturbances as secondary symptoms to be managed, we're beginning to recognize that healing the dreaming mind may be central to overall recovery. The same neural networks that allow trauma to disrupt our sleep also provide the pathways for dreams to become agents of healing and transformation. As we continue to refine these approaches and develop new ones, we're discovering that the boundary between sleeping and waking healing may be much more fluid than we previously believed. The work we do with dreams during therapy can influence our sleep experiences, and our sleep experiences can, in turn, accelerate our healing during waking hours. It's a beautiful example of how the mind's capacity for healing operates across all states of consciousness, weaving recovery through both our sleeping and waking hours. The future of dream-focused trauma treatment looks increasingly bright, with new technologies and techniques expanding our ability to work with the healing wisdom of the dreaming mind. Virtual reality environments are being developed to help patients practice confronting nightmare scenarios in safe, controlled settings. Neurofeedback devices are being refined to help people learn to influence their brainwave patterns during sleep. Even smartphone apps are being created to support dream work and provide guided imagery for nightmare rescripting. But perhaps most importantly, we're learning to trust the innate wisdom of the dreaming mind itself. Given the right conditions and support, the brain that learned to be afraid in sleep can also learn to be courageous. The mind that became trapped in traumatic loops can also discover new endings, new possibilities, and ultimately new dreams. The journey from nightmare to healing dream may not be quick or easy, but it represents one of the most hopeful frontiers in our understanding of how human beings can recover from even the most difficult experiences. In recognizing dreams as potential pathways to healing, we honor both the complexity of trauma and the remarkable resilience of the human spirit. We acknowledge that healing happens not just in the bright light of conscious effort, but also in the gentle darkness of sleep, where the mind continues its ancient work of processing, integrating, and ultimately dreaming new possibilities into being. One of the most remarkable aspects of trauma-focused dream therapy is how it reveals the creative, adaptive capacity of the unconscious mind. When patients begin working with their nightmares, many are surprised to discover that their brains are capable of generating entirely new dream scenarios, characters, and outcomes that they never consciously considered. Take Sarah, a military veteran who had been experiencing the same nightmare for 3 years following her deployment. In her recurring dream, she was trapped in a vehicle that was under attack, unable to move or call for help. During image rehearsal therapy, she initially struggled to imagine any changes to this nightmare. "It just feels so real," she explained. "How can I change something that actually happened?" Her therapist guided her to understand that while the original traumatic event couldn't be changed, her brain's representation of it could be modified. Together, they started small. In her first rescripted dream, Sarah imagined that the radio in the vehicle was working, allowing her to call for backup. In the next version, she pictured herself successfully taking cover. By the 3rd week of therapy, she had developed an entirely new dream where she was able to help evacuate civilians to safety. What happened next illustrates the mysterious but profound way that dream work can transform not just sleep experiences, but waking life as well. Sarah began to have actual dreams that incorporated elements from her rescripted versions. More significantly, she started to feel differently about her deployment experience during her waking hours. "It's like I remembered that I wasn't just a victim there," she reflected. "I remembered that I was a trained soldier who helped people, even in that terrible situation." This transformation points to something profound about how dreams and memory interact. The brain doesn't store memories like a video recorder, preserving exact replicas of past events. Instead, memories are reconstructed each time we recall them, influenced by our current state of mind, new information, and yes, even our dream experiences. When Sarah repeatedly rehearsed empowered versions of her traumatic memory, she wasn't just changing her dreams, she was gradually reshaping how her brain encoded and recalled the actual traumatic event. Neuroscientist Dr. Lynn Nadel's research on memory reconsolidation helps explain this phenomenon. Each time we recall a memory, it becomes temporarily unstable and can be modified before being stored again. This process originally evolved to help us update our memories with new, relevant information, can be hijacked by trauma to reinforce negative associations. But it can also be harnessed therapeutically to gradually transform traumatic memories into more adaptive forms. The dream work that patients do during the day appears to influence this reconsolidation process during sleep. When Sarah practiced visualizing empowered responses to her trauma, she was essentially providing her brain with new material to incorporate when it naturally reprocessed those memories during REM sleep. Over time, these modified elements became integrated into her actual memory networks, changing not just how she dreamed about the event, but how she understood and felt about it during waking hours. This process doesn't erase the factual content of traumatic memories. Sarah still remembered what actually happened during her deployment, but it did change the emotional and meaning-making components of those memories. The overwhelming helplessness and fear that had dominated her recollections gradually gave way to a more balanced understanding that included her competence, training, and the positive actions she had taken under extreme circumstances. The social and relational aspects of trauma recovery also emerge beautifully in dream work. Many trauma survivors report that their dreams become populated with threatening or absent figures, reflecting how trauma can damage our fundamental sense of safety in relationships. But as healing progresses through dream therapy, the characters in dreams often begin to change as well. Mark, a survivor of childhood abuse, initially had dreams filled with faceless, threatening adults who ignored his cries for help. Through dream rescripting work, he began to imagine protective figures appearing in his dreams, sometimes real people from his adult life, sometimes imaginary guardians, sometimes even fictional characters from books or movies that represented safety and strength to him. As Mark practiced these rescripted dreams, something unexpected began to happen. Not only did his actual dreams start to include more supportive figures, but his relationships during waking hours began to improve as well. He found it easier to trust his therapist, to accept help from friends, and to believe that others might genuinely care about his well-being. The protective figures he had practiced imagining in his dreams seemed to have created new neural pathways for experiencing safety in relationships. This points to another crucial insight from dream therapy research. The brain systems that govern our dream relationships are intimately connected to those that shape our waking social experiences. The attachment patterns, trust levels, and interpersonal expectations that show up in our dreams both reflect and influence how we navigate relationships during our conscious hours. The timing and pacing of dream-focused therapy also reveals important truths about how healing unfolds. Unlike some therapeutic approaches that aim for rapid symptom relief, dream work often follows what researchers call a spiral pattern of recovery. Patients might experience significant improvements in their nightmares, then have a period where distressing dreams return, followed by another phase of improvement that reaches an even better baseline than before. This spiral pattern initially confused researchers and sometimes discouraged patients who expected linear progress. However, we now understand that this pattern reflects the brain's natural process of working through complex emotional material. Each cycle of improvement followed by temporary setback represents the mind integrating new levels of healing, like a spiral staircase where you revisit similar psychological territory but from a higher vantage point each time. Elena, a survivor of domestic violence, experienced this spiral pattern clearly during her dream therapy work. She would have several weeks of peaceful sleep with no nightmares, then suddenly experience a return of distressing dreams that seemed even more intense than before. Initially, both she and her therapist worried that the treatment wasn't working. However, careful examination of the dream content revealed that while the emotional intensity had returned, the actual content was evolving. In her early nightmares, Eleanor was always trapped and helpless. In the nightmares that returned after several weeks of peaceful sleep, she was still frightened, but she was also fighting back, calling for help, or finding ways to escape. Her unconscious mind was processing increasingly. The brain during sleep is far from quiet, and nowhere is this more evident than in the complex neurochemical ballet that unfolds while we dream. Tonight, we're diving deeper into the microscopic world of neurotransmitters, brainwaves, and cellular processes that transforms simple electrical impulses into the vivid narratives of our sleeping minds. It's a story written in molecules and synapses, where chemistry becomes consciousness and where the smallest changes can completely alter the landscape of our dreams. Let's begin with the star players of this neurochemical orchestra, the neurotransmitters that conduct the symphony of sleep. During waking hours, your brain maintains a delicate balance of chemical messengers, each one playing its part in keeping you alert, focused, and aware. But as sleep approaches, this balance shifts dramatically, like a theatre dimming its lights before the curtain rises on a completely different kind of performance. Acetylcholine emerges as the unexpected protagonist of REM sleep, surging to levels that rival or even exceed those found during wakefulness. This might seem counterintuitive. After all, how can a brain that's supposedly resting be flooding itself with a neurotransmitter associated with attention and arousal? But acetylcholine in the sleeping brain serves a different purpose entirely. Instead of focusing attention outward, toward the external world, it turns the spotlight inward, illuminating the vast networks of memory, emotion, and imagination that will become the raw materials of dreams. This acetylcholine surge originates in the brainstem, specifically in clusters of neurons called the pedunculopontine and later a dorsal tegmental nuclei. These regions act like master switches, sending acetylcholine-rich signals throughout the brain, particularly to areas involved in visual processing, memory formation, and emotional regulation. The result is a brain that's simultaneously asleep and intensely active, creating the perfect conditions for the vivid, often bizarre experiences we call dreams. But acetylcholine doesn't work alone. As REM sleep begins, other neurotransmitters start to fade into the background, like instruments in an orchestra gradually going silent. Norepinephrine, the chemical messenger associated with alertness and stress response, drops to its lowest levels of the day. Serotonin, which helps regulate mood and logical thinking, similarly retreats. Dopamine, linked to motivation and reward processing, becomes scarce in most brain regions, though it maintains some presence in areas associated with movement and emotional memory. This neurochemical withdrawal isn't accidental, it's essential. The absence of norepinephrine helps explain why dreams often lack the logical constraints and reality testing that characterize waking thought. Without this chemical anchor to rationality, the mind is free to accept impossible scenarios as perfectly reasonable. You might dream of flying, talking to deceased relatives, or finding yourself in locations that morph seamlessly from your childhood home to an alien landscape. And within the dream, none of this seems strange. The suppression of these modulatory neurotransmitters also contributes to the temporary paralysis that protects us during REM sleep. Without norepinephrine's influence on spinal motor neurons, the dramatic actions we perform in our dreams, running, fighting, dancing, remain safely confined to the theatre of the mind. It's an elegant safety mechanism that allows us to experience intense scenarios without the physical consequences. Meanwhile, GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, works to maintain the delicate balance between consciousness and sleep. GABA acts like a gentle hand on the brake pedal, ensuring that the brain's heightened activity during REM doesn't spill over into full wakefulness. This inhibitory influence is particularly strong in areas like the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function and critical thinking. With GABA keeping this area suppressed, the dream mind operates with reduced skepticism and enhanced creativity. The neurochemical environment of REM sleep also involves more exotic players. Adenosine, often called the sleep chemical, accumulates throughout the day as a byproduct of neural activity, creating the mounting pressure we experience as sleepiness. During deep NREM sleep, adenosine levels drop as the brain clears metabolic waste, But during REM, the relationship becomes more complex. While overall adenosine levels remain relatively low, local concentrations may fluctuate in ways that influence dream intensity and recall. Histamine, typically associated with wakefulness and arousal, is almost completely absent during REM sleep. This absence contributes to the dream state's unique character, where attention can shift rapidly and unpredictably without the sustained focus that histamine normally provides. It's as if the brain's internal spotlight becomes untethered, free to illuminate random corners of memory and imagination in rapid succession. The temporal dynamics of these neurochemical changes are as important as the changes themselves. REM sleep doesn't arrive all at once, but emerges gradually from the deeper stages of NREM sleep. This transition involves a complex choreography of neurotransmitter release and suppression, with different brain regions switching roles like actors changing costumes between scenes. The brainstem initiates the process, sending waves of acetylcholine to the thalamus, which then relays these signals to the cortex. This bottom-up activation creates the characteristic pattern of REM sleep, rapid eye movements, vivid dreams, and the peculiar combination of mental activity and physical stillness. But the neurochemistry of dreams extends beyond the classical neurotransmitters to include a fascinating array of neuromodulators and hormones. Cortisol, the stress hormone, follows its own rhythmic pattern during sleep, generally rising in the early morning hours and potentially influencing the emotional tone of late-night dreams. Growth hormone, released primarily during deep NREM sleep, may also play a role in memory consolidation processes that influence dream content. Recent research has revealed the importance of glymphatic system activity during sleep, a brain-wide network that clears metabolic waste and may influence the neurochemical environment of dreams. This system, which becomes dramatically more active during sleep, helps maintain the delicate balance of neurotransmitters and other signaling molecules that make coherent dream experiences possible. The cholinergic system's role in REM sleep has revealed fascinating insights into the mechanics of memory consolidation during dreams. Acetylcholine doesn't just enable dreams, it helps orchestrate which memories get strengthened, modified, or integrated with new information. This process occurs through complex interactions between the hippocampus, where memories are initially stored, and the neocortex, where they become part of our long-term knowledge base. Dreams may represent the subjective experience of this memory transfer process, with the strange narratives and impossible scenarios reflecting the brain's attempts to find connections and patterns among disparate pieces of information. The neurochemical signature of different sleep stages creates distinct types of dream experiences. During the lighter stages of NREM sleep, when neurotransmitter levels are transitioning but haven't reached their REM extremes, dreams tend to be more thought-like and less vivid. These hypnagogic experiences, occurring at the border between waking and sleeping, often involve realistic scenarios or simple sensory experiences. As the night progresses and REM periods become longer and more intense, the neurochemical environment becomes more conducive to the elaborate, emotionally charged dreams that we're most likely to remember. The brain's electrical activity during REM sleep reveals another layer of complexity in the dreaming process. EEG recordings show patterns of brainwaves that closely resemble those of wakefulness, but with important differences. Gamma waves, associated with conscious awareness and attention, appear during REM sleep but in different patterns than during waking consciousness. These high-frequency oscillations may represent the neural correlate of dream awareness, the subjective sense of experiencing events within the dream narrative. Theta waves, typically associated with deep meditation and creative states, become prominent during REM sleep, particularly in the hippocampus. This theta rhythm may facilitate the memory consolidation processes that occur during dreams helping to integrate new experiences with existing knowledge networks. The synchronization of theta waves across different brain regions may explain how dreams can seamlessly blend memories from different time periods and contexts. The neurochemical environment of REM sleep also influences the emotional content of dreams. With the amygdala highly active but disconnected from the rational control of the prefrontal cortex, dreams often feature intense emotions that seem disproportionate to the dream events themselves. This emotional intensity may serve an important function, allowing the brain to process and integrate emotional experiences in a safe, consequence-free environment. Sleep spindles and K-complexes, the characteristic brainwave patterns of NRM sleep, represent different neurochemical processes than those found in REM. These patterns emerge from the interaction between the thalamus and cortex, mediated primarily by GABA and involving calcium channels in thalamic neurons. While dreams can occur during NRM sleep, they tend to be less vivid and more fragmented, reflecting the different neurochemical environment of these sleep stages. The circadian regulation of neurotransmitter release adds another dimension to the neurochemistry of dreams. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, our internal biological clock, influences the timing and intensity of neurotransmitter release throughout the night. This circadian modulation helps explain why dreams toward morning, when REM sleep periods are longest and most intense, tend to be more vivid and memorable than those occurring earlier in the night. Understanding the neurochemistry of dreams has practical implications beyond satisfying scientific curiosity. Many medications affect neurotransmitter systems and can dramatically alter dream experiences. Antidepressants that increase serotonin levels often suppress REM sleep and reduce dream recall. When people stop taking these medications, they may experience REM rebound, a period of intensely vivid and frequent dreams as the brain readjusts its neurochemical balance. The neurochemical basis of dreams also helps explain why certain substances can influence dream content and intensity. Alcohol, while initially sedating, disrupts the normal progression of sleep stages and can reduce REM sleep during the first part of the night, followed by REM rebound later. Caffeine, which blocks adenosine receptors, can affect sleep onset and the normal accumulation of sleep pressure that influences dream intensity. As we continue to unravel the neurochemical mysteries of dreams, new therapeutic possibilities emerge. Understanding how neurotransmitter imbalances affect dream content could lead to targeted treatments for nightmares, particularly those associated with PTSD. The manipulation of specific neurotransmitter systems might also enhance positive dream experiences or improve the memory consolidation functions that occur during sleep. The intricate neurochemical dance that creates our dreams reveals the brain's remarkable ability to generate complex, meaningful experiences from the interplay of simple chemical signals. Each dream is the product of millions of molecular interactions, a temporary neurochemical state that creates its own unique form of consciousness. In this chemical theatre of the sleeping mind, neurotransmitters become the players, brainwaves the music, and dreams the stories that emerge from their collaboration. As you drift towards sleep tonight, remember that your brain is preparing for its own neurochemical symphony. Acetylcholine will surge, other neurotransmitters will ebb, and in that carefully orchestrated chemical environment, your dreams will unfold. Each molecule, each synapse, each electrical impulse contributes to the nightly miracle of dreaming, transforming the simple chemistry of sleep into the boundless creativity of the dreaming mind. Dreams have always been the ultimate private experience, locked away in the theatre of our sleeping minds. But what if that wasn't always going to be the case? What if we could peek behind the curtain of consciousness and actually see what someone else is dreaming? It sounds like science fiction, but researchers around the world are already taking the first tentative steps toward making dream visualization a reality. The journey began in laboratories where scientists discovered they could decode simple visual patterns from brain activity. Using functional magnetic resonance imaging, researchers trained computers to recognize the neural signatures of different images. When someone looked at a picture of a cat, their visual cortex would light up in a specific pattern. When they looked at a car, the pattern was different. Slowly, painstakingly, scientists built libraries of these neural fingerprints. The breakthrough came when researchers realized they could work backwards. If they could identify the brain patterns associated with seeing a cat while awake, perhaps they could recognize similar patterns when someone dreamed about a cat. The first experiments were crude but promising. Participants would fall asleep in brain scanners, and computers would analyze their neural activity during the early stages of dreaming. The results were remarkable. With about 60% accuracy, researchers could predict whether someone was dreaming about faces, words, or objects. These early glimpses into the dreaming mind revealed something profound about the nature of dreams themselves. The visual cortex, the same brain region that processes what we see with our eyes, was highly active during dreams. This suggested that dreams aren't just abstract thoughts or emotions, but rich visual experiences that engage the same neural machinery we use to see the waking world. As technology advanced, so did our ability to peer into dreams. High-resolution brain imaging combined with artificial intelligence began producing rough reconstructions of dream imagery. These weren't perfect replicas, more like impressionist paintings of the mind, but they represented something unprecedented in human history: the ability to observe someone else's dreams from the outside. The implications are staggering. Imagine therapists being able to see their patients' recurring nightmares, not just hear descriptions of them. Picture researchers studying the dreams of people with PTSD, depression, or other mental health conditions in real time. Consider the possibility of recording your own dreams and watching them back the next morning like a bizarre personal movie. But with these possibilities come profound ethical questions. Dreams are perhaps the last bastion of true privacy, the one place where our thoughts are completely our own. If dreams can be decoded and visualized, who owns that information? Could employers demand to see your dreams? Could governments use dream monitoring for surveillance? These questions aren't just philosophical. They're becoming increasingly practical as the technology advances. The potential therapeutic applications are equally compelling. For people suffering from chronic nightmares, particularly those related to trauma, the ability to visualize and understand dream content could revolutionize treatment. Instead of relying on often fragmented verbal descriptions, therapists could see the actual imagery that torments their patients' sleep. This could lead to more targeted, effective interventions. Researchers are also exploring the possibility of dream incubation, using gentle sensory cues to influence dream content. By playing specific sounds or delivering subtle light patterns during REM sleep, scientists have successfully guided dreamers toward particular themes or scenarios. Imagine being able to rehearse an important presentation in your dreams, or work through emotional conflicts in a safe, controlled dream environment. The technology is still in its infancy, but progress is accelerating rapidly. Machine learning algorithms are becoming increasingly sophisticated at interpreting brain signals. Brain imaging technology is getting more precise and less invasive. Some researchers predict that within a few decades, dream recording and playback could become as common as taking photographs. Yet for all the technological marvels, there's something beautifully stubborn about dreams that resists easy explanation or control. Even as we develop the tools to peer into the sleeping mind, dreams remain fundamentally mysterious. They're not just visual experiences, but complex emotional narratives that weave together memory, imagination, and meaning in ways that often defy logic. The scientists working in this field are acutely aware of both the promise and the peril of their research. They speak of the need for careful ethical guidelines, for protecting the privacy of our innermost thoughts, and for ensuring that dream technology serves humanity rather than exploiting it. There's a reverence in their approach, a recognition that they're working at the very edge of what it means to be conscious. Perhaps most remarkably, this research is revealing that dreams aren't just random neural noise, as some theories have suggested. They're organized, meaningful experiences that engage multiple brain systems in coordinated ways. The visual cortex creates the imagery, the emotional centers provide the feeling tone, and the memory systems weave in personal experiences and associations. Dreams, it turns out, are sophisticated productions of the sleeping brain. As we stand on the threshold of being able to visualize dreams, we're also confronting fundamental questions about consciousness itself. What does it mean to be aware? How do our brains create the rich, subjective experience of dreaming? Can we ever truly understand consciousness by observing it from the outside, or are some aspects of the mind forever beyond scientific reach? The future of dream research promises to be both thrilling and unsettling. We may soon live in a world where dreams can be recorded, shared, and analysed, where the boundaries between private thought and public observation become blurred, and where the last refugee of the imagination becomes another source of data. But perhaps that's not entirely a loss. Throughout history, humans have shared their dreams through stories, art, and myth. We've always sought to communicate these strange nocturnal journeys to others, to make sense of them together. Maybe dream visualization technology is simply the latest chapter in humanity's ancient desire to understand the mystery of consciousness. For now, our dreams remain largely our own. They're still the private theatres where our minds play out their nightly dramas, process the day's experiences, and explore the vast landscape of memory and imagination. Even as science advances, there's something comforting about knowing that when you close your eyes tonight, you'll enter a world that's uniquely yours, shaped by your experiences, your fears, your hopes, and your creativity. The future may bring technologies that can glimpse into our dreams, but they'll never quite capture the full experience of being the dreamer. The felt sense of flying, the emotional weight of a nightmare, the strange logic that makes perfect sense in the dream, but dissolves upon waking. These aspects of dreaming may always remain beautifully, mysteriously human. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, remember that you're about to embark on a journey that's both deeply personal and universally shared. Your dreams are yours alone, yet they connect you to the fundamental experience of being human. They're the nightly reminder that consciousness is far more mysterious and wonderful than we often realise, a gift that unfolds anew each time we close our eyes and let our minds wander into the realm of dreams. Part 8. The Future of Dream Science. The landscape of dream research stands at a remarkable threshold. We're no longer simply wondering what happens when we sleep, but actively peering into the dreaming mind with technologies that would have seemed like pure science fiction just decades ago. The ability to glimpse, decode, and perhaps even influence our dreams represents one of the most extraordinary frontiers in neuroscience, opening doors to therapeutic interventions, creative exploration, and a deeper understanding of consciousness itself. One of the most fascinating developments in recent years has been the advancement of dream decoding technology. Japanese researchers at the ATR Computational Neuroscience Laboratories have achieved something truly remarkable. They've successfully identified visual content in dreams with about 60% accuracy using functional magnetic resonance imaging. By first mapping participants' brain activity while they viewed thousands of images while awake, creating unique neural fingerprints for different visual categories, the team could then compare these patterns to brain activity during the early stages of sleep. When similar patterns emerged during dreaming, they could predict whether the person was dreaming about a person, a car, or a building. While we're still far from watching someone's dreams like a movie, this represents an extraordinary leap forward in understanding the neural language of dreams. The implications of such technology stretch far beyond academic curiosity. Imagine being able to help people with severe communication disorders express their inner worlds through their dreams, or providing therapists with objective insights into recurring nightmare patterns. However, these advances also raise profound ethical questions about mental privacy. Dreams have always been our most private experiences, and the ability to decode them forces us to consider new forms of neurological rights and protections for our innermost thoughts. Meanwhile, the field of targeted dream modification is expanding rapidly through techniques like targeted lucidity reactivation. Recent studies have shown that smartphone applications using this method can increase lucid dreaming frequency from less than 1 dream per week to over 2 dreams per week. The technique combines pre-sleep training with carefully timed auditory cues delivered during REM sleep, helping dreamers recognize when they're dreaming and gain conscious control over their dream experiences. This research demonstrates that sensory cues delivered during sleep can significantly enhance dream awareness, with participants reporting improved emotional states following their lucid dreams. The therapeutic potential of dream intervention continues to grow. For individuals suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, where nightmares can perpetuate trauma rather than process it, new treatments are showing remarkable promise. Image rehearsal. Therapy where patients rewrite their nightmares while awake and practice the new, less distressing versions has proven effective in reducing both nightmare frequency and intensity. Some researchers are exploring how lucid dreaming techniques might be combined with traditional therapy, allowing patients to confront and transform their traumatic dreams from within the dream state itself. Beyond trauma treatment, scientists are investigating how dream manipulation might enhance learning and creativity. The idea that we could use sleep to practice skills, rehearse presentations, or work through complex problems is moving from speculation to active research. Studies suggest that the brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagined and actual practice, meaning that lucid dreamers might genuinely improve real-world abilities through dream rehearsal. Musicians could practice difficult pieces, athletes could perfect their technique, and students could reinforce their learning, all while sleeping. The relationship between artificial intelligence and dream research is also yielding exciting possibilities. Machine learning algorithms are being trained not just to decode dream content, but to recognize emotional patterns and even predict mental health trends based on dream reports and sleep data. Some researchers envision AI systems that could provide personalized dream guidance, suggesting specific imagery or scenarios that might help individuals process emotions or work through challenges during sleep. Virtual and augmented reality technologies are beginning to merge with dream research in unexpected ways. Researchers are creating immersive environments that mimic the feeling of dreams, allowing people to experience dreamlike states while awake. These technologies might eventually serve as training grounds for lucid dreaming or provide therapeutic environments that bridge the gap between waking consciousness and sleep experience. The science of circadian rhythms and dream timing is becoming increasingly sophisticated. Researchers now understand that different types of dreams occur at different times during the night, and that the timing of sleep interventions can dramatically affect their success. Apps and devices that monitor sleep stages in real time can deliver targeted interventions precisely when they're most likely to be effective. Whether that's a gentle sound to trigger lucidity or a specific scent to influence dream content. One particularly intriguing area of development is dream sharing technology. While we're still far from the science fiction scenario of literally sharing dreams between people, researchers are exploring ways to create shared virtual dream experiences. By combining brain-computer interfaces with virtual reality, it might eventually be possible for multiple people to explore dream-like environments together, blending individual consciousness in ways we've never experienced before. The integration of wearable technology with dream research is making previously laboratory-only studies accessible to ordinary people. Sophisticated sensors can now monitor everything from brainwaves to heart rate, body temperature, and movement patterns throughout the night. This wealth of data is helping researchers understand individual differences in dreaming patterns and develop personalized approaches to dream enhancement and therapy. Pharmaceutical approaches to dream modification are also advancing, though with careful consideration of safety and ethics. Researchers are investigating how specific medications might enhance memory consolidation during sleep, reduce nightmare frequency, or even promote lucid dreaming. However, the complexity of sleep and dreaming means that pharmaceutical interventions must be approached with extraordinary caution. The field is also grappling with important questions about the natural function of dreams. As we develop more ways to influence and control our dream experiences, we must consider whether we might be interfering with essential biological processes. Dreams may serve functions we don't yet fully understand, and the long-term effects of dream manipulation remain largely unknown. Cultural and individual differences in dreaming are receiving increased attention as well. Researchers are discovering that dream content, recall patterns, and even the physiological aspects of dreaming can vary significantly across cultures and individuals. This diversity suggests that future dream technologies may need to be highly personalized to be effective. The intersection of dream research with broader neuroscience is revealing new insights about consciousness itself. Dreams represent a unique state where the brain generates vivid, immersive experiences without external sensory input. Understanding how this occurs may help us understand consciousness more generally, with implications for everything from treating disorders of consciousness to developing more sophisticated artificial intelligence. Looking toward the future, we can envision dream research contributing to fields as diverse as education, entertainment, mental health, and human enhancement. Sleep might become an active period of learning and growth, rather than simply rest. Creative industries might develop new forms of entertainment that blend dreams with interactive media. Mental health treatment might routinely include dream-based interventions tailored to individual needs. However, as we stand on the brink of these remarkable possibilities, we must proceed thoughtfully. Dreams have always been deeply personal, often spiritual experiences for humans across cultures. As we develop the ability to observe, influence, and potentially share our dreams, we must carefully consider the implications for privacy, authenticity, and human nature itself. The future of dream science promises to be as rich and mysterious as dreams themselves. We're moving toward a world where the boundaries between sleeping and waking consciousness become more fluid, where dreams become tools for healing and growth, and where the ancient human experience of dreaming takes on new dimensions we're only beginning to imagine. Yet perhaps most remarkably, no matter how advanced our technology becomes, dreams will likely retain their essential mystery, their deeply personal nature, and their power to surprise, inspire, and transform us in ways we never expect. So as we drift to the end of our gentle journey through the landscape of dreams, we've wandered from the mysterious stages of sleep to the theatre of the dreaming mind, explored the science behind nightmares and lucid dreams, and discovered that even in our deepest rest, our brains are busy weaving stories, processing emotions, and perhaps even solving problems. Dreams remain beautifully enigmatic, part science and part poetry, reminding us that even while we sleep, our minds are still exploring, still creating, still reaching toward understanding. Sweet dreams, fellow traveller, and may your next journey into sleep be filled with wonder.